YouTube, welcome to my random thoughts on Thursdays. This week I'm going to talk about why I am child-free by choice. So, for those of you who are regular viewers of my vlog, you probably know that I am a 40-something woman, and you may or may not know that I don't have kids. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I have chosen to remain child-free. And you know, my husband is also child-free by choice as well. In fact, that's how we met. We were actually at a local social gathering of child-free by choice individuals. And you know, we just kind of hit it off, and things went from there. And that was actually one of my many frustrating things when I was still dating and going out there and trying to find someone to make a connection with, was how many single men were turned off by the fact that I didn't want to have children, or divorced men with children who really thought that it would be really great if I became their kid's new mommy, which I was like, excuse me, but there's a reason I say that I'm child-free by choice. It's because I don't want to raise children. And I get a lot of, well, I used to. Now that I'm older, I don't get it as much, but when I was a lot younger, I used to get a lot of grief for being child-free. Oh, you'll change your mind one day. Well, guess what? I haven't. You'll regret it. Nope. Or that I'm selfish, that for some reason, by not adding to the burgeoning population of the planet, that I am somehow a selfish person. Don't quite understand that. You know, if you choose to have children, that is entirely your choice. And, you know, that's great. That's your choice. But I don't see why not having a child would be a selfish thing. It's, you know, I'm selfish because I am not sharing in the same burden of raising children that other people are. I don't know. I never quite understood that point of view. But let me kind of go through a little bit of why I'm child-free. There's a lot of reasons, and you know, this video could be an hour long if I went through everything, but I'm gonna touch on some of the larger points. First of all, is I actually honestly never wanted to have kids. I think when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old, I think I had already decided, yeah, I really didn't see myself as having kids. Now, when I got older, for some reason, I just assumed that one day I would get married and have kids, just because that's sort of what you do. That's what everyone does, is get married, have kids. And as I got older, into my middle to late 20s, I started reevaluating that and started thinking about, well, wait a minute, why am I, you know, thinking that I'm going to have kids? And started really kind of thinking about it and realizing that I really didn't want to have kids. And it has nothing to do with me hating children by any means. I don't hate children. I babysat for 9 years, and I enjoyed every family I babysat for. All of the kids that I babysat for were really great kids. I'm still in touch with a lot of them through Facebook today, and you know, they were a joy to spend time with, because I actually was sort of like their friend. I wasn't just sitting there watching them. You know, I played with them, I read stories, you know, we had a lot of fun. So I enjoy being around children. I have no problem with children. I was also an elementary education major. I was going to be an elementary school teacher, and I wanted to teach like 1st or 2nd grade. So, you know, for me, not wanting my own children has nothing to do with me hating children. I have no problem with children at all. I just realized that I had no desire for it. And in my opinion, if you have no desire to be a parent, and you still go ahead and have children anyway because that's what you're expected to do, I think that affects how good of a parent you ultimately end up being, because I think if you go ahead and have children when you don't want them, you end up resenting the poor children. And even if you treat your children absolutely fabulously their entire lives, I think they still pick up on that resentment that's simmering under the surface. And I think it can affect them. Now, my mother did not want to have children, and surprise. She was told she was sterile. She ended up being somewhat promiscuous, and I kind of came along, and she resented that for her entire life, and she never let me forget that I ruined her life. So that's one of the many reasons why I don't want to have kids, because I know what it's like to be an unwanted pregnancy. I know what it's like to be an unwanted child. Things have been better if I had been given up for adoption? Who's to say? Perhaps. My grandmother was the one who insisted that she keep me, and that my grandparents primarily raised me. But my mom still lived there, and took every opportunity to push me down, to tell me that I was worthless, that I ruined her life, that she should have had an abortion, and just lots and lots of things like that. And it took me a long time to get past a lot of my self-esteem issues because of that. But I did, I realized one day, it's like, wait a minute, she's saying all this stuff, but is it really true? And I started thinking, looking at myself and realizing, she was just blowing a lot of smoke, and not just because she was smoking cigarettes. And I just became, indignant to her insults, and I kind of came up with the attitude of, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what I can do. And here, look at me, 30 some years later, well, 40 some years later now, but, based on the time frame that I kind of started coming to these realizations, I'm running my own business. I'm living in a nice house. I have a happy marriage. My life has turned out way better than I expected it to ever turn out, and probably way better than she would have ever expected it to turn out. But be that as it may, try not to ramble too much, but yeah, so I know what it's like to not be a wanted child, and my fear was, that if I did have a child, knowing that I had no desire to be a parent, that I would end up not being a good parent. Either I would treat the child the way I was treated, or I would overcompensate and spoil the poor child to death, to the point where I was either way doing a disservice to the child. In either case, it's like, what, if you really don't want to have kids, why have them? Make the choice. And, I'm perfectly happy being an aunt. I have a really adorable little nephew here locally in Colorado, and I have a really sweet niece and nephew out in the Chicago area as well. And I adore them, and I like to spoil them, and that's where I get my joy from. I don't need my own children. I prefer children I could give back. Because there's a lot of things I like to do with my life. I am very ambitious. I've always been very career focused. I've always wanted to kind of push the boundaries and go beyond what was expected of me in my career and things. And, here I am running my own business and stuff, and I don't know if that would have been possible if I'd had children, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible to run a business and have children, because obviously many, many people do that. But I know for myself, I know my limitations. And I cannot imagine running this business, managing, my household with my husband, and doing all the things that we both have to do and want to do in our life, and having the responsibility of a child at the same time. I don't know how parents do it. To be perfectly honest, I have a lot of respect for parents. I really do. Hats off to you for making that choice and for all the hard work that you have to do, because I honestly cannot imagine how you do it. I could not do it. I know I couldn't do it. It's just not something that's in me. And, you couple that with no desire to have children, not feeling like I would be capable of caring for a child properly. And then you mix in, also for me, I also have a lot of medical issues. Enough that I ended up having to have surgery, and while I, had the surgery scheduled, I said, well, gee, could you sterilize me at the same time? So I actually made that choice. And thankfully I had a doctor who was willing to do that. She was hesitant. I was 28 at the time, which is considered very young, and she was obviously nervous that I would change my mind and sue her or whatever for doing it, because a lot of doctors will not sterilize a woman until they're, you know, halfway through menopause, just because, well, Jill, what if you change your mind? But I'm very grateful that she agreed to go ahead and do that. So I've never had to worry about accidentally having a child like my mom did. I know that I had a lot of medical issues and they thought that I might be sterile anyway, but I wasn't taking any chances. I was like, you know, since I have to have surgery in that particular region anyway, let's go ahead and just do the tubal ligation and get that over with. And that way it just kind of gave me more peace of mind. And not because I wanted to be promiscuous like my mother, far from it, but, you know, accidents happen, and, you know, I did want to be in a relationship. I did want to eventually get married, or at least be in a long-term relationship. The piece of paper didn't matter to me as much as just having a life companion. And I didn't want to have to worry about, you know, a condom breaking or forgetting a pill or whatever. And so, you know, I went ahead and did that. So, you know, those are the reasons why I am today child-free, and I will remain child-free. And I will just enjoy watching my nieces and nephews grow up and have, you know, have vicarious joy through them and things. And they will carry on the genetic lines of both my husband's family and my family. And I will continue to live my life and enjoy it without children, because that's just who I am. Well, thank you for listening to me ramble on again, and until next week, take care. Bye-bye.